Last night I did what I do every single Halloween. I got dressed up and I went over to my grandma's house. She doesn't live very far from us. And I passed out candy. Yesterday I thought there was a very real possibility that for the first Halloween that I could remember, we may not get a single trick-or-treater, because it had been raining all day long, and the weather forecast for that evening called for even more rain and wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour. Of course, I wanted to see some trick-or-treaters, but at that point, when conditions could be that dangerous, I mean, no Snickers or Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are worth power lines coming down on you or your parents, so, but we did, though. We got quite a few trick-or-treaters. I mean, I still had some candy left over at the end of the night, but we ended up getting quite a few trick-or-treaters. Nobody knew who I was supposed to be dressed up as. If you grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, or Detroit, Michigan, or Windsor, Ontario, Canada, you might know who I was. I was the Ghoul. And the Ghoul was a TV horror host. He would show like cheesy black and white B movies from the 1950s and 60s on late night TV, and he would blow up stuff like toys and pumpkins and Polish sausage links with firecrackers when he would come back from commercial breaks. He was on the air from like 1971 to like sometime in the early 2000s. But a couple of kids did have guesses. One little boy, after I gave him his candy, and by the way, every year I'd give out like 2, maybe 3 pieces of candy to each trick-or-treater, but for coming out in such awful weather, every single one of them got like 6 or 8 pieces of candy, and I thanked every single one of them for coming out in such crappy weather. And then after like 5 or 6 trick-or-treaters, I figured, well, I probably shouldn't be saying crappy to like 4-year-olds, but yeah, I thanked every single one of them and made sure they got lots of candy. But anyways, the one little trick-or-treater looked up at me after I gave him his candy, and he said, "Thank you, Superman." I said, "Well, you're welcome, Earthling." And then another kid asked if I was supposed to be a pirate, which wasn't a bad guess given the phony facial hair and the one lens for my sunglasses being popped out. You know, it did have the look of an eye patch. But I told him no. And then I put on kind of an old man voice, and I said, "I used to be on TV years ago. I'd show movies and stuff. Maybe your parents remember me." Just figured I'd act like I really was the Ghoul. And he accepted this and thanked me and walked away and said, "Happy Halloween." And then there was another kid. After I gave him his candy, he just gazed into my eyes and he said, "They were talking about postponing it." I said, "Yeah, you know, I've heard that some cities do that. If the weather is bad enough, they'll just postpone Halloween and celebrate it a couple of days later. But yeah, they don't do that around here." And he said, "Yeah." He just kept looking at me, and I said, "Well, thanks for coming out. I really do appreciate you coming out in such awful weather. Happy Halloween to you and your family, your loved ones." He's like, "Yeah." And, you know, it was a brief but majestic encounter. And I stopped passing out candy around 8:35 p.m. because I'd gone like a half-hour stretch where I just didn't have any trick-or-treaters, so I figured, okay, time to close up shop. Yeah, we had lots of Reese's Peanut Butter Cups and Snickers left over, unfortunately. So, by that time, my friend and his little sister had shown up, and I joined them in the other room. They were hanging out with my brother. Halloween 5 was on AMC, as usual, every single year, I swear. My friend and my brother drank some Bacardi 151. I didn't, though. I fell asleep on the couch for a bit. And when I woke up, I apologized to my friend. You know, I didn't want to be a rude host, but he was cool with it, probably because he was buzzed. And yeah, my friend and his little sister, they left around 10:30 p.m. because they had to be up early the next day for a wedding that they were going to be attending tomorrow. I decided to walk home, even though it was raining. It was pouring. gee, I just felt like walking home in the rain. And I stopped by the building that used to be the junior high school I attended, and I sat on a bench in the park behind that old school. I was kind of beneath a canopy of trees, so I wasn't getting rained on so much. And yeah, I just sat there and I listened to the rain fall, reminisced. I saw the spot where my first bike was stolen. It was stolen at a dance. I rode my bike to this dance because I had a crush on this girl, and I thought, well, maybe I'll dance with her badly. I'll dance badly with her to impress her. And I got there. I think it cost like $1.25 to get in. And unfortunately, she had volunteered to help with organizing the whole thing. So she was just sitting behind a table, collecting the money, handing out tickets for different things. She was not going to dance at all that night. And when I figured this out, I got super sad, and I left. Went looking for my bike around back, and saw that it had been stolen, so I got super duper sad. And I think I was done with school dances until maybe ever. I don't know if I ever went to another school dance. I didn't go to prom. I watched The Shining instead of going to the prom. That's true. I'm not making that up. Anyways, yeah, I just continued to sit here on this bench while it was raining, and I looked over at some playground equipment that wasn't too far from the spot where my first bike had been stolen, and the playground equipment was raised and it was on some red mulch, and I looked at that playground equipment and I thought, if I were homeless, I'd be sleeping underneath that stuff, because you could pile the mulch up on each side of you so that you wouldn't roll over too many times and possibly drown in your sleep while it's raining. If you were snoring and your mouth was open. Yeah, and it just looked really cozy. And when I got home, I told my brother this, and my brother just looked at me and said, "What have you been thinking about lately? I mean, you going to quit your job and hit the streets?" And I said to him, No, well,